So picture this. You're driving home from work. It's a Tuesday. Everything is exactly the same as it was yesterday, right?
Right, just a normal day.
Yeah, just taking the same route, sitting in the same traffic, looking at the same dashboard. But suddenly, something feels, I don't know, different.
Like a shift.
Exactly. The air in the car gets a little denser, or maybe you feel softer. There's this quiet, completely illogical shift happening somewhere behind your ribs.
Oh, I know that feeling perfectly.
Right. And you look around, and literally nothing in your physical environment has changed. But on a gut level, you know that something massive is moving. You can feel the tectonic plates of your life shifting, even though the surface hasn't cracked yet. Have you ever had a moment like that?
It is an incredibly distinct sensation, and yet it completely defies, our normal rational categorization of how the world works.
Yeah, it really does.
Because we are so conditioned to look for evidence outside of ourselves first. I mean, we want the email or the phone call or, the bank deposit.
It's a tangible proof.
Exactly. So when the shift happens internally without that external validation, it's deeply disorienting.
It is entirely disorienting.
Yeah.
And that exact sensation, that unexplainable internal pivot, that's the space we are entering for today's deep dive.
I'm really looking forward to this.
Me too. We're exploring the mechanics behind the signs that you are on the precipice of a massive life change. Or, as it's often framed, manifesting something big.
Right.
But I want to set a very hard boundary right out of the gate here. We are steering completely clear of toxic positivity today.
Oh, that is a crucial distinction to make. I mean, the landscape of manifestation has been so heavily co-opted by some very superficial ideologies lately.
Yeah, 100%. We are not doing the just think happy thoughts and a sports car will materialize on your front lawn thing.
Thank goodness.
Right. We're not talking about slapping a fake smile over genuine trauma or just like creating a vision board and calling it a day. The framework we are exploring today is deeply grounded in biology.
Yes, and neuroscience.
Exactly. Biology, neuroscience, and specifically in the unified field principles that researchers like Dr. Joe Dispenza have spent their careers documenting. We are looking at the actual literal mechanics of how reality shifts.
Because the underlying premise of this entire discussion, the paradigm shift that we really need to anchor ourselves in, is that reality reorganizes itself on the inside before it ever reorganizes on the outside.
Okay, wait, say that again. That's huge.
Reality reorganizes on the inside before the outside. The quantum field or the environment, it responds to our internal state long before the physical world catches up.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, so manifestation isn't a passive wish thrown into the void. It is literally the moment when biology meets consciousness. But here's the tragedy of this whole process. Like, most people completely miss it.
Really? Why?
Well, they do the internal work, right? They elevate their state.
Yeah.
And then they look around their physical environment and they see that their bank account is the same, their relationship status is the same, their job is the same.
And they get discouraged.
Exactly. They conclude that they have failed. They abort the process because they are completely blind to the profound, energetic and biological shifts that are tearing down the old reality right under the surface.
Wow. I think people abort the process because they expect the delivery to look like an Amazon package arriving on their porch.
That's a great way to put it.
Like, you get a notification, you open the door, and boom, there's the box. But this process is so much more like a massive software update happening in the background of your phone.
Oh, that is a highly accurate way to visualize it. I love that.
Think about it. When your phone downloads a new operating system, you don't immediately see the new interface. You don't get the new widgets or the upgraded camera software until the internal coding is completely, 100% rewritten.
Right. The screen looks exactly the same while all the heavy lifting is happening in the background.
Exactly. In fact, if you get impatient and try to force the phone to do something, or if you, cancel the update because the screen hasn't changed yet, you corrupt the file.
Yes, you interrupt the process.
You never get the new operating system. You are stuck with the old software because you just couldn't tolerate the invisible processing time.
And that processing time is precisely what we are mapping out today. We are exploring the biological indicators that this massive background update is running successfully.
Okay, so what's the first indicator?
Well, the very first indicator, the one that initiates the entire sequence, is often the most confusing because it doesn't feel like fireworks. It feels incredibly subtle.
It really does. It's a silent, sudden change in your internal emotional state. It's so quiet. The concept of spaciousness comes up a lot when describing this in the source material.
Spaciousness, yes, that's the perfect word for it.
It's like a gentle expectation without any logical reason backing it up. You aren't jumping up and down with explosive excitement, but rather you drop into this bizarre, unexplainable calm.
Which is confusing for a lot of people.
Super confusing. Because why? If I'm calling in a huge, exciting life change, why does it start with silence?
To understand the silence, we really have to look at the noise that preceded it, you know? We have to look at the neuroscience of how we establish our emotional baseline.
Okay, walk me through that.
So every time you have a thought, you produce an electrical signal in your brain. If you are chronically stressed, constantly worrying about the future, or agonizing over the past, you are firing a very specific set of neural pathways.
And those pathways get stronger the more you use them, right?
Exactly. And the brain takes that electrical signal and translates it into a chemical message. It sends a command down to the body to release a specific cocktail of hormones.
Let me guess. Cortisol and adrenaline.
You got it. The classic survival hormones, which are everywhere in our modern high-stress world.
So you are basically just marinating your cells in stress chemistry.
Marinating is a great word for it. And over years, your cells become desensitized, so they actually require more of those chemicals just to feel, quote-unquote, normal.
Wow. So we literally get addicted to our own stress.
Yes, literally. Your body becomes addicted to the chemistry of your own stress, your own anxiety, your own feelings of unworthiness.
That is wild.
But when you start doing the internal work, when you meditate, when you consciously elevate your state of being, you are deliberately firing new neural pathways. You send a completely different electrical signal to the brain.
And the brain has to respond to that new signal.
Exactly. The brain then synthesizes a new chemical message and cascades it down into the body. You are physically changing the chemical cocktail your cells are receiving.
Oh, wow. So that quiet shift, that spaciousness we were talking about, that's just the sensation of your emotional body finally recalibrating.
Yes, it is the feeling of coming out of chronic survival mode and stepping into a coherent state.
Okay, but that brings up these incredibly strange, paradoxical feelings that happen during this phase. The source material talks about experiencing emotions that shouldn't logically exist at the same time.
Right, the paradoxes.
Like feeling calm yet activated, or being grounded yet expanded, or feeling neutral yet deeply alive. When I first heard those pairings, I couldn't wrap my head around them.
They do sound like contradictions on the surface.
Yeah, calm but activated. That sounds like sitting in your driveway with your foot completely flooring the gas pedal while the emergency brake is on. It sounds like an internal contradiction.
Well, it sounds contradictory only because we are so used to associating activation with stress and chaos, you know?
That's true. We think of activation as panic.
Right. We associate being energized with the frantic, jittery feeling of a caffeine rush or a panic attack. But biologically, those paradoxes make perfect sense when you transition out of survival mode.
How so?
The calm and grounded sensations arise because you are no longer operating out of the primitive fight-or-flight nervous system. The alarm bells have finally stopped ringing in your head.
Ah, okay. The emergency brake is off.
Exactly. And the activated and expanded feelings come from the fact that your heart and your brain have moved into a state of coherence. Your nervous system is highly energized, but it is highly ordered.
So it's constructive energy, not destructive friction.
Precisely. It's a clean burning fuel, so to speak.
Wait, hold on. I need to challenge this because if I'm putting myself in the shoes of someone going through this right now, this all sounds a little too clean.
Fair enough. Push back.
If I'm manifesting something wonderful, like if I'm finally breaking out of my rut and aligning with a reality where I have financial freedom or a deeply fulfilling relationship, why does this initial phase often feel terribly uncomfortable?
That's a really important question.
Because sometimes this spaciousness doesn't feel like peace. It feels like a terrifying emptiness. Shouldn't I just feel joyful all the time if I'm finally on the right track? Why do I feel this deep, hollow discomfort?
That right there, that is the exact friction point where most people abandon their internal work. They hit that discomfort and assume they are doing something terribly wrong.
Because it feels wrong.
It does. But let's go back to the biology of addiction we just talked about. If your body has been addicted to the chemistry of financial panic for 10 years, your cells are literally waiting for their morning hit of cortisol.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
They have built receptor sites specifically designed to absorb that stress chemistry.
Like a lock waiting for a specific key.
Exactly. Now, through your new elevated state, you have suddenly cut off the supply of those old chemicals. You've stopped producing the panic keys. What happens to any organism when you cut off its primary chemical supply?
It goes into withdrawal.
Yes. Your body goes into a literal physiological withdrawal from its past identity.
Wow.
So that strange emptiness, that terrifying hollow feeling, is not a sign of failure. It is the palpable sensation of your old emotional programs loosening their grip. It is the feeling of an empty receptor site waiting for a chemical that is no longer coming.
That is mind-blowing. So you are just standing in a doorway between two lives.
You are starting to vibrate at the frequency of your new future, but your physical body is still kicking and screaming, begging for the familiar chemistry of your past problems simply because it's what it knows.
That is completely fascinating. It's like you've moved out of your old apartment.
Oh,
And you're standing in the hallway, and the hallway feels weird because there's no furniture in it.
I love that. Yes.
It's just empty space. And instead of realizing that this empty space means you are finally moving forward to a better house, your brain panics and says, there's no furniture here, we must be in danger, go back to the old apartment.
The brain craves predictability over absolutely everything else. Even if the predictable reality is miserable, the brain prefers it to the unknown.
Because the unknown is where danger theoretically lives.
Exactly. To the primitive brain, familiar equals safe, even if it's painful.
So that spaciousness is the first physical indicator that your internal state is no longer a match for your past. You are no longer your old self. But you aren't fully the new self yet either, which means the physical body has to go through a massive construction phase to catch up. And that leads to a really rocky, incredibly confusing physical transition.
Which brings us to the next signs.
Yes, this is where the body begins to act as the unconscious mind. When the emotional baseline shifts, the physical structure of your neurology and biology must literally break down and rebuild itself to hold the new frequency.
And this manifests as wild emotional oscillations and intense heightened sensitivity. You might wake up feeling this sudden, overwhelming wave of excitement and clarity, like you can conquer the world.
Yes, those incredible highs.
But then, an hour later, you plunge into deep reflection, sadness, or really sharp discomfort. It feels like layers of your psyche are just being ripped off.
Yeah.
Honestly, it sounds completely exhausting. It sounds like you're losing your mind.
It is exhausting, but it is fundamentally a process of structural rewiring. We talk about neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change, but we rarely talk about the physical toll it takes to actually do it.
What's happening physically? The brain is actively pruning predictable, hardwired neural nets that have been in place for decades. At the same time, it is sprouting new dendrites and cementing entirely new neural pathways.
So it's a demolition and construction site.
Exactly. Think about what a neural pathway is. It is a biological road in your brain. Tearing up a 4-lane highway and paving a new one creates massive turbulence.
I bet.
Your emotional field is stretching to accommodate a completely new operating system. To you, it feels like emotional instability. But neurologically, it is rapid, profound expansion. The rigid, calcified structures of your past identity are literally breaking apart.
And that structural breakdown explains the physical extremes people hit during this time?
Yeah.
You experience these wild variations in physical energy.
Oh, absolutely. The energy swings are huge.
You might have 3 days where you have surging motivation, like you are awake at 5 a.m., you have total clarity, your purpose is crystal clear. But then it's followed by 4 days of incredible crushing fatigue. Your body's just screaming at you to lie down.
It's forced rest.
Yeah, and I know how agonizing this is for high achievers. You are doing the internal work, you are actively trying to build this amazing new future, and suddenly you can barely drag yourself off the couch.
And what's the first thing they think?
The immediate thought is, I'm lazy, I'm self-sabotaging, I'm failing.
Right. We have to completely reframe that exhaustion because calling it laziness is a fundamental misunderstanding of biology.
Also,
The body is consuming astronomical amounts of energy to reorganize its internal patterns. When the brain is rewiring itself, when the entire autonomic nervous system is recalibrating, when your endocrine system is shifting hormone production to match a new baseline.
it's a lot happening at once.
It is. It requires an immense amount of caloric and electromagnetic resources. Your biology is performing heavy manual labor on a microscopic scale.
So when I'm lying on the couch, unable to move, I'm not doing nothing. My body's just diverting all of my energy away from external movement and using it for internal construction.
Exactly. Shutting down old, deeply ingrained biological programs requires your body to force you into a state of rest. Remember the phone update analogy?
Yeah, the background update.
Right. When a phone is installing a massive new operating system, it gets hot, the battery drains rapidly. If you try to open an app, it lags or crashes.
That is so true.
The phone isn't broken. It is simply dedicating 100% of its processing power to the internal upgrade. Your deep fatigue is the biological equivalent. Your body is shutting down your external drive so it can allocate all its resources to the internal software update.
Man, that changes everything. It really does. It turns a day of extreme tiredness from a moral failure into a biological necessity. You were just plugged into the charger, downloading the new software.
That's exactly how you should view it.
But what about those days of surging motivation? The days where you feel like you have electricity running through your veins?
Those are the moments when a new neural network successfully comes online. Yes. The update finishes a specific module, and you get a preview of the energy of your future. You are feeling the coherence of the new system operating without the drag of the old survival programs.
Okay, so the emotional baseline has shifted. The biology is tearing up the old roads and building the new ones. Once this internal heavy lifting really gets underway, the brain has to protect its new investment.
It absolutely does.
It literally changes how it interacts with the outside world. It alters your perception and your habits. This is the next sign.
This is a critical threshold because as your internal environment reorganizes, your external environment begins to look and feel vastly different simply because your filtering mechanism has changed.
Right, and the examples of this from the source material are so universally relatable. You start losing interest in things that used to feel incredibly familiar.
Yes, the things that used to comfort you.
Like the TV shows you used to binge suddenly seem mind-numbing. The conversations you used to have with certain friend groups feel draining or just hollow.
You start craving depth.
Yeah, you might suddenly crave intense silence. Or, and this one is oddly specific but so true, you suddenly feel this manic urge to organize your physical space.
Oh, the cleaning phase.
Yes, you start cleaning out your closets, throwing away old clothes, rearranging furniture, and you don't really know why. You just feel this desperate need for clarity in your environment.
Well, the urge to clean and reorganize is actually a profound biological imperative. And it's driven by a piece of anatomy called the reticular activating system, or the RAS.
The RAS. Okay, tell me about that.
This is a network of neurons located at the base of the brainstem, and its primary function is filtration.
Filtration.
Yes.
Oh.
Because every single second, your brain is bombarded with millions of bits of sensory information, sights, sounds, smells, temperature. If your brain tried to process all of it consciously, you would go insane in 5 seconds.
Right, so it has to edit the world down to a manageable size.
Exactly. It filters out almost everything, and it only lets through what it deems important. But how does it decide what is important?
Yeah, who makes the rules?
It bases that decision entirely on your current beliefs, your past traumas, and your focused attention. For your entire life, your RAS has been operating on a very specific VIP list.
A VIP list, I like that.
It looked for evidence of stress, struggle, or whatever your familiar emotional baseline was.
Okay, so if my baseline for the last decade was, I never have enough money and my job is terrible, my RAS was literally filtering my reality to only show me things that confirmed that belief.
Yes, confirming the bias.
It was like a bouncer at a club, and the only people allowed in were thoughts and opportunities that matched the I'm broken, miserable dress code.
That is a perfect analogy. The bouncer only lets in what matches the list. But here is the magic of what happens when you do this internal work.
What happened?
As you elevate your emotional state, as you rewire your neural pathways and break the addiction to your past, you hand the bouncer a completely new VIP list.
Ooh.
You program the reticular activating system with a new set of parameters, and suddenly your brain stops filtering out the good stuff.
That is incredible.
You literally become neurologically capable of perceiving opportunities, patterns, resources, and behaviors that were always there but were previously invisible to you.
That is staggering. The opportunities for a better life were literally sitting in the room with me the whole time, but my brain was physically blurring them out because they contradicted my belief that I was stuck.
You couldn't perceive them because they were irrelevant to the old you.
Wow.
But now, the new you can see them. And this explains the sudden changes in your habits and the intense desire to reorganize your life.
Because the old environment doesn't match the new VIP list.
Exactly. Your new internal state is highly coherent, but it is also delicate. It's a newly formed neural network. When you are exposed to old, chaotic environments like loud noises, toxic conversations, cluttered rooms,
It creates friction.
it creates intense cognitive dissonance. The external environment simply does not match the internal upgrade.
So when you suddenly start throwing out your old clothes or canceling plans to go to a loud bar, you aren't becoming a hermit. You aren't becoming antisocial.
No, you are instinctively curating an environment that supports your new frequency rather than degrades it. You are shedding the physical artifacts of your past identity.
That makes so much sense. The old noise literally grates on your upgraded nervous system.
Yes, you outgrow your old reality before the new reality has fully materialized.
Okay, up until this point, everything we've talked about, the emotional spaciousness, the physical exhaustion, the RAS changing your perception, it has been entirely internal.
All under the hood, yes.
Right, it's happening within the borders of your own body and brain.
Yeah.
But this is where the dynamic completely flips, and we hit the next sign. Eventually, this internal coherence becomes so strong, the electromagnetic signature you are broadcasting becomes so clear that it forces the external world to respond.
Yes.
The physical reality outside of you starts talking back.
This is where we cross from biology into the physics of the unified field. This is where internal and external begin to merge.
We are talking about constant, undeniable synchronicities. And I want to get really specific here because everyone experiences these slightly differently, but the flavor is always the same.
The patterns are very recognizable.
Yeah. You start seeing repeating numbers everywhere. 11.01, 3.33 on the clock every day. Or you go to a coffee shop and the total on the receipt matches the exact sequence of numbers you were just thinking about.
Or license plates, yes.
Exactly.
Right.
Or, and I hear this all the time now, you spend the entire morning internally agonizing over a very specific, deeply personal problem. You haven't spoken a word of it out loud.
Yeah.
You open your phone, and the very first video or article that pops up perfectly mirrors your internal struggle and delivers the exact answer you needed.
The timing and the specificity of these events become far too aligned to dismiss as statistical probability.
Right. But, I mean, I have to stop you here, because my logical, highly skeptical brain is immediately throwing up red flags.
Let's hear them.
We just talked about the reticular activating system. If I start doing manifestation work and I decide that seeing the number 11 is a sign from the universe, hasn't my brain just programmed the RAS to scan for the number 11?
That's the logical inclusion, yes.
And since 11 is everywhere, my brain highlights it and I trick myself into thinking it's magic. Isn't this entirely just confirmation bias? Are we just projecting meaning onto random chaos?
It is the most natural, logical pushback to have. It really is. And if we look at reality purely through the lens of Newtonian physics, where everything is separate, where you are a discrete object moving through a world of other discrete objects, then yes, you could absolutely argue it is just the RAS and confirmation bias.
Okay, but
the framework of Dr. Dispenza and the bleeding edge of quantum physics challenges us to adopt a much larger view. The fundamental principle of the unified field is that the environment is not separate from the individual.
I really need you to break that down. The environment is not separate from me.
I know it sounds wild. It feels separate because of how our senses process light and matter. But fundamentally, at a subatomic level, you are generating a measurable electromagnetic field.
Okay, I'm with you.
Your heart alone generates an electrical field that can be measured several feet outside of your body. When your internal state is chaotic, when you are stressed, angry, or fearful, that field is incoherent. It's static.
Like a bad radio signal.
Exactly. But when you do this work, when your brain and heart align, that field becomes highly coherent. It becomes a clear, powerful signal. And the quantum model suggests that this coherent energy field interacts directly with the larger unified field of the environment.
Whoa. So I am not just a passive observer walking through a world that is happening to me.
No, you aren't.
My biological energy field is literally plucking the strings of the environment around me.
Exactly. In wave physics, there is a concept called constructive interference. When two coherent waves meet, they amplify each other. When your internal field becomes coherent with the frequency of your new future, the external environment must dynamically respond to that new energetic signature.
So synchronicity is not random coincidence.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It is not just your brain playing a trick on you. It is the visible manifestation of your energy entangling with the field. It is reality rearranging itself around your new frequency, and it operates at a speed that your conscious, logical mind cannot fully comprehend.
So when I see the 11.11 or I get the perfect video on my feed, it's not just that my RAS noticed something that was always there. It's that my coherent energy interacted with the field to align my physical presence with that experience at that exact millisecond in time and space.
Precisely. And let's look beyond the numbers because the examples get much more profound.
Give you one.
Think about when you are contemplating reaching out to an old colleague you haven't spoken to in 5 years. You don't do it, but you hold the thought of them in your mind. 3 hours later, your phone rings, and it's them.
Happened to me.
Or you walk into a massive bookstore with absolutely no idea what you're looking for. You take 3 random turns, pull a book off the shelf, and it contains the exact framework you needed for your business.
That transcends simple confirmation bias.
It does. The statistical improbability of those events happening through pure random chance is astronomical.
It really feels like the universe is having a conversation with you. It's dropping breadcrumbs.
Breadcrumbs from the field is the perfect way to describe it. But what is critical here is understanding the mechanism of why they appear.
Right.
The universe is not a judge sitting on a cloud dropping breadcrumbs to test whether you are worthy. The field is a mirror. It is simply reflecting your stabilized internal vibration back to you.
So it's just reflecting me.
Yes. And when you experience a true synchronicity, your body recognizes it instantly. You get a biological hit of truth. Even if your logical mind tries to analyze it and write it off as a coincidence, your gut knows it was an orchestrated event.
It's the feedback loop. It's the server pinging your phone to say, message received, the new software update is now propagating through the external network.
Yes. Perfect analogy.
And as the external world begins to validate your internal state with these synchronicities, something secondary happens inside of you. Your internal compass, your decision-making apparatus, it goes from being muddy and confused to being absolutely razor sharp.
This transition leads us to the state of elevated awareness and unerring action.
Yes, the strengthening of intuition. And what fascinates me about this stage is how it eliminates the mental spiral.
The mental spiral is exhausting.
We all know it. You have a big decision to make. Maybe you're deciding whether to quit your job, or move to a new city, or end a relationship. You spend weeks agonizing over it.
Pros and cons lists everywhere.
Exactly. You create lists, you ask a dozen different friends for their advice, hoping someone will just tell you what to do. You lie awake at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling, paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong choice.
It's a terrible state to be in.
But when you hit this phase of the manifestation process, the spiral just abruptly vanishes. The inner voice gets incredibly quiet, but its precision is terrifying. You stop second guessing. You just know.
And to understand why the spiral vanishes, we have to look at what creates the spiral in the first place.
Which is?
The mental spiral is a biological symptom of a divided nervous system. It happens when your prefrontal cortex, the logical, analytical part of your brain, is desperately trying to calculate a safe path forward, while your amygdala, the fear center, is throwing up worst-case scenarios.
So your brain is fighting itself.
Your brain is trying to solve a problem, but your heart is pumping the chemistry of fear. You are in a state of energetic and biological friction. But when you achieve the elevated awareness we were discussing, you have biologically bridged that gap. Your heart and brain are in coherence.
So intuition isn't just some mystical woo-woo feeling.
Not at all. Intuition in this state is a highly sophisticated, concrete language. When your heart and brain are synchronized, they process information exponentially faster than the logical mind can on its own.
You just download the answer.
You are bypassing the slow, clunky processing of the analytical brain and tapping directly into a unified knowing.
There is this concept in the material that really captures this, and it's the idea that in this state, decisions make themselves.
I love that phrasing.
Me too.
Yeah.
You aren't sitting there with a spreadsheet justifying the choice. You just take the step. You don't need to see the entire staircase, but the moment you lift your foot, the path solidifies directly underneath it.
But that requires a profound level of trust, which is terrifying to the survival-oriented brain.
It is terrifying, because we are taught that action requires justification. But here, you are choosing without logical justification, and reality is simply rising up to meet your foot. You are walking with the energy that creates worlds.
It's a beautiful state of flow.
Imagine how that would practically look in your life. Imagine walking into a high-stakes negotiation, or stepping onto a stage, or having a deeply vulnerable conversation with a partner, and having absolutely zero mental chatter.
Total presence.
No self-doubt, no inner critic analyzing your words. Just a quiet, unshakable knowing of exactly what to say and what to do in every microsecond. It's the ultimate expression of the flow state.
And achieving that uninterrupted flow state where the brain is clear, the heart is coherent, and the external field is responding with synchronicity, it propels you directly into the final and arguably the most complex stage of this entire transformation.
The culmination of all the internal shifts. The final sign that the massive thing you are calling in is practically knocking on your door. And it is the most counterintuitive, paradoxical sign of them all.
It really defies everything we are taught about ambition and goal setting.
No.
It is the paradox of peace through detachment.
Let me set the scene for this because I think anyone who has ever wanted something badly will recognize this feeling. Imagine you have been fiercely pursuing a goal for months, maybe years. You are desperate for it. Let's say it's funding for a startup or trying to repair a failing relationship. You have been white-knuckling it.
Just holding on so tight.
You are obsessively checking your email. You are over-analyzing every single text message. You are trying to manipulate every variable to force the outcome you want. Your entire identity is wrapped up in getting this thing.
Yes.
And then out of nowhere, you wake up one Tuesday morning and the desperation is just gone. Poof. Evaporated into thin air.
The underlying desire for the outcome remains, but the desperate burning need to control how and when it happens has completely vanished.
Exactly. You look at the situation and you realize, I still really want that funding, but if I don't get it today or even this year, I am completely fine.
That's a profound shift.
It feels so incredibly strange and honestly a little scary because society conditions us to believe that the only way to get what we want is to hustle, grind, bleed, and obsess over it until we force it into reality.
That's the old paradigm.
If you stop obsessing, society says you've given up, you've lost your edge. But this framework says the exact opposite. Why does releasing your grip and essentially giving up control actually serve as the final green light for manifestation?
We have to analyze the physics of desperation. When you are operating from a place of intense anxiety, obsessive control, and desperation, what are you fundamentally broadcasting into the quantum field?
Fear, I guess.
Yes. What is the core emotion driving all that frantic action?
The core emotion is fear. It's the fear that I don't have it and the fear that I might never get it.
Yes. You are literally signaling lack. Your energetic broadcast is screaming, this thing is absent from my life. And remember, the field is a mirror.
Right. It doesn't care what I want.
Exactly. It doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you are being. If you are being a state of lack, the field will reflect a reality of lack back to you. The more you desperately push and try to force the outcome, the more resistance you create.
You are effectively pushing the very thing you want further away.
You are.
So my obsession is acting like a repellent.
It acts as a massive energetic repellent. But when you achieve this unexpected detachment, a profound biological and energetic shift has occurred. You stop pushing. You stop forcing.
The turning point.
Yes. Dr. Dispenza describes this as the vital turning point of the entire process. It happens when your internal energy has become fully 100% compatible with the new reality you are trying to create.
The resistance finally drops to zero.
Precisely. Think about why you wanted the outcome in the first place. You wanted the funding or the relationship or the new house because you believed that having that thing would make you feel a certain way.
Right. I believed it would bring me peace, joy, or security.
Exactly. But through all the internal work we've discussed today, the rewiring of the brain, the recalibration of the emotions, you have already generated those feelings internally.
Oh, wow. I don't need the thing anymore to feel the feeling.
Exactly. You no longer need the external event to happen in order to feel whole. You already feel peaceful and abundant. Because you are already generating the frequency of the end result, the desperation to control the external world naturally dissolves. There is no biological structure left to support the fear of not having it.
That perfectly explained how this detachment looks in practice. It looks like effortless decision-making.
Give me an example.
Well, for example, you are holding your phone, about to double text someone you've been desperately trying to date, and you just stop. Not because you're playing games or using a strategy, but because your body literally rejects the feeling of forcing it.
Yes, the forcing feels wrong.
You just pull your energy back, you go make a cup of coffee and genuinely forget about it. And what invariably happens, the moment you genuinely detach, your phone buzzes with the exact message you were trying to force.
It happens every time. Or consider the professional realm. You've been clinging to one specific project, trying to force it through endless red tape, burning yourself out.
We've all been there.
Finally, you just release it. You say, I am done forcing this. The moment you drop the resistance, an entirely new, vastly superior opportunity arrives, completely unprompted from a direction you never could have predicted.
Because you finally got out of your own way.
At this final stage, the physics of your manifestation change entirely. You have transitioned from trying to manifest by effort to manifesting by resonance.
Manifesting by resonance. I really need you to unpack that difference. Effort versus resonance.
Okay. When you attempt to manifest by effort, you are trapped in the Newtonian model. You are trying to move matter with matter.
Using force.
Yes, you are using your physical body, your physical actions, your words, your late nights to try and physically manipulate people and circumstances to create a specific outcome.
Which is exhausting.
It is exhausting, it is inefficient, and it usually creates friction. But when you manifest by resonance, you have shifted to the quantum model. Your coherent energy, that calm, detached clarity, that deep internal peace, it becomes an actual gravitational magnet.
Oh, I see.
You are using energy to move matter. You do not have to lift a finger to manipulate the external world because your frequency simply draws the corresponding reality into form.
It really is like gravity.
Yes.
You don't see gravity straining. It doesn't sweat. It doesn't look like it's trying hard. It just exists as a fundamental property.
Yeah.
And it pulls everything toward its center effortlessly.
That is exactly how resonance works. When you reach the state of peaceful detachment, resources begin to arrive as if they were anticipating your readiness.
You just show up.
People, funding, and opportunities appear at the exact moment they are required. The timeline accelerates, you stop forcing, yet absolutely everything moves.
Everything moves.
Yes, the internal software upgrade is complete, the new hardware is online, and you are completely energetically compatible with the massive life you have called in.
You stop forcing, yet everything moves.
That gives me chills.
It's powerful. It's such a beautiful, empowering realization that your peace, your ability to just be, is actually your greatest leverage point. It's the final confirmation that the system rebooted perfectly and you are operating in a totally different reality.
It is the moment immediately preceding the crystallization of your new life. It is subtle, yes, but its power is absolute. And when you know the mechanics behind it, it is unmistakable.
This has been an absolutely phenomenal journey.
I completely agree.
Let's just take a breath and trace the arc we've mapped out today because it is a masterclass in personal transformation. We started with the invisible mechanics, establishing that the unified field demands reality change on the inside before the outside.
Which initiates that silent internal emotional shift, the uncomfortable spaciousness of breaking the chemical addiction to your past.
Right, which triggers the intense physical crucible, the absolute exhaustion, the days on the couch, the surging vitality as the biology actively tears down old neural highways and paves new ones.
Followed by the recalibration of the reticular activating system, radically altering your perception and forcing you to curate a new physical environment.
Which then causes the external world to start responding. The undeniable synchronicities, the breadcrumbs from the field reflecting your new electromagnetic coherence.
Which sharpens the intuition, dissolving the mental spiral and allowing for unerring action driven by heart-brain coherence.
And finally, arriving at the pinnacle, the paradox of peaceful detachment. The desperation dropping away, the resistance zeroing out, leaving only the magnetic power of resonance. It is such a comprehensive map of how biology and consciousness actually sculpt the world.
And for anyone listening who wants to go beyond understanding this conceptually, who wants to master the practical application and dive into the clinical data and brain scans proving this, the foundational text for this entire framework is Dr. Joe Dispenza's work.
Highly recommend it.
Particularly his book, Becoming Supernatural. It is the definitive guide to navigating this exact process.
It really is the manual for operating this new software. If the biological and energetic mechanics we've broken down today made a light bulb go off in your head, diving into his research is your immediate next step.
Absolutely.
Now, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over as you step back into your day. We've spent the last hour dissecting the incredible amount of internal work that happens long before any external change becomes visible.
The massive background update.
Exactly. So consider this perspective shift. If you have been doing the internal work, if you have been meditating, elevating your emotions, facing down your past addictions, and your external reality still looks exactly the same.
What if it isn't a rejection?
Right. What if the universe isn't ignoring you? What if you aren't doing it wrong? What if the complete lack of visible change is simply the ultimate sign that your biological system is still meticulously, carefully wiring the intricate neural and energetic infrastructure required to hold the massive life you're calling in?
A skyscraper requires a foundation dug deep into the bedrock. You wouldn't want the penthouse delivered before the steel beams were capable of holding its weight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are building the power grid. You can't turn on the lights until the grid is finished. So the next time you feel that unexplainable spaciousness or that crushing fatigue, observe it, trust it, allow the detachment to settle in, and carry this biological awareness into every small decision you make.
Trust the process.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Remember that quiet shift in the air we talked about at the very beginning. The next time you are sitting in your car and you feel it, well, don't panic and don't ignore it. It just might be the universe taking a deep breath before exhaling a completely new version of your life. We'll see you next time.